Ladies and Germans, how you all doing? This is Con Ulrich. And folks, our monthly coverage continues today on the map of Slutsk, and we're seeing an awful lot of vehicles, sir. What's going on here?
Left hand side in blue, we have P. Rutana playing Panther-led, Maverick Income. Right hand side in red, we have Jimster Hacks playing the third guard tank corps, also with Maverick Income.
So, Valentine's Day is in several months from now, and that'll be right about the same time those tanks get to the front lines. But while the rest of the actual battle is going on, what should we be expecting here, other than, of course, tanks, and more tanks?
Honestly, it's probably just going to be tanks, and lots of tanks. I mean, both sides have, some super heavy stuff for the Panthers and IS-2s. To receive either one of them decides to, try to do anything crazy up north. And actually, we'll be seeing that we've got an ISU 152 and a Panther-led being brought in to the northern side, which is usually a pretty underappreciated side to attack because people are very scared of open fields.
Exactly. But you know what? I kind of like the fact that we are not going to see, hopefully, that, head-butting attack back and forth into the town down south. That drives me crazy sometimes. But people are just like, you know what? I see things, I must send troops at things. Not the case
It gets
here.
a bit boring.
Oh, absolutely. And we can see right now that the ISU 152 is going to get screened by some of this lighter material. He will get the first shot, I think, on this Panther if he just moves up about 50 or 100 meters. I'm surprised he hasn't engaged already.
It seems like a bit of a... not like a fully committed per se from Jim. So he has the support guns and the ISU, but not a whole lot of infantry to try to take out forest. He's probably expecting much less resistance. So up north, the guards tried to push up and they got slapped back from the stern pioneers. So it seems like Jimster's going to have to give the ground in this engagement.
Here's the funny thing about this, that both players are respecting their opponent an awful lot to the point that both of them are almost too afraid to push. And what I mean by that is, check out this half-track just shot off those P-Gra and P-Shreks right to the west of that Maxim, a little bit further south. I think what we have over here is Tanner is expecting a much more committed defense. And I'm wondering right now if he's realizing, wait a second, there's too much stuff for this to be super scary. I might be able to be aggressive.
Yeah, both sides really feeling each other out, and Tanner actually heavily invested in mortar half-tracks, not getting one, but two of them. And yeah, he's bringing that towards the center. So I'm guessing he's waiting for the mortar half-tracks to come, maybe lay down some smoke and suppressive fire, and then the Panzer Grenadiers are going to go over the top.
That's kind of the hope, isn't it? Is that get that stuff over the top. Actually, up north, we might see... Could this be a very cheeky... Yeah, we're going to see a very cheeky flag being taken because there's nothing for 1,000 meters in either direction for it.
Well,
those are the hardest ones to lose in my mind. Because once you're like, yes, I definitely am owning this territory, and one guy, 2 miles away is like, yep, this is mine now.
Yeah, you just need to get Ivan over here to be like, oi, you don't need to do any fighting, just hold up the red flag for a little bit, okay? It's how we're going to win the war. I mean, that's what they did over the Reichstag.
That's true. And then that particular guy died in a chemical, I think, experiment sometime during the Cold War.
Bunch of draggies.
But yeah, I mean, I guess kind of the additional funny thing about this, though, too, other than the fact that of having a Russian man saying "oi," is we are also seeing an IS-2 up here. So this Panther is moving south at the absolute worst time because now we have, well, an odd death ball kind of coming together with a 37mm pop gun, an assault gun, a super heavy tank, and a scout. Now, that doesn't sound like a whole lot to you folks at home, and I completely understand why. But you realize the fact that when you only have 65 squads of infantry per side, somehow scouts take on a very different meaning, I feel like.
Yeah, it's going to be very important for him to, rush down the road with a decent infantry force and try to get that all-important forest where the Panzer Grenadier is. That's really where the majority of the battle up north comes down to. He has the screening capabilities, thanks to the IS-2. It's just really be able to have enough, substance in his frontline push to actually get the bloody flag.
Equally kind of amusing is the fact that down south he actually has the ability to be aggressive. And I know I just complained about the town fight, but we have 2 Valentines, an MCHA, and 2 guard squads, which, even if this wasn't a lightly defended town, I would argue, is actually a pretty good scratch attack that you can put together.
Yeah, seems Tanner's really, banking up his central attack here, using those mortar half-tracks quite aggressively. Yeah, he should be hopefully starting to make some attacks soon, because of course we can see with our God Vision, there's nothing in the center, apart from a single Maxim gun.
Well, that is the maxim of war, is that whenever your opponent is making a mistake, let him do it.
Hmm.
In the meantime, first recon coming on through from the sky. Now, don't expect too much to be coming through here, folks. We got a couple of PE2s from the third tank, and the potential for a 190 strike or two, but I wouldn't be looking to the air very often to see something impressive happening.
Oh, yeah, we've probably got some good eyes on the mortar half-tracks. I'm actually surprised he hasn't relocated him yet, but at the same time, there's nothing really to punish him, actually, so yeah, he's in a pretty good spot. And we are seeing the Panther Grenadiers south of the hill starting to sneak their way up. But we have a decent amount of defense with the 76mm pop gun, the Maxim, just defending the northern area of the town. Actually got some good fire lanes.
Yes, but with the Maxim on the hilltop now dying, that to me is a sign to say, okay, guys, time to A-move. And we're seeing a very, very cautious push instead, which is, I guess, not unexpected. You don't really know what your opponent has maybe in these trees. You know they've probably just killed an artillery piece, but more than that, you cannot say. So,
He doesn't have a whole lot of infantry in A phase either to really throw about. He maybe could be bringing up some more of the armoured cars to just act as forward reconnaissance by, recon by fire. But he's starting to make his manoeuvres happen a little bit. I think he just doesn't want to overextend out Panther for obvious reasons.
that's fair. That's fair. But you know what? At least what he's doing is he has enough of those MG42 half-tracks, which it's so weird for me sometimes to make that comment to see an Axis division with light firepower like that, light supporting firepower like that.
Yeah, it's like real life only 10% of Panzer Grenadiers by 44 are equipped with half-tracks. Not a great number.
Yeah, most of them were with horses. Oh wait, they ate those in Russia. And that's fair. But I think the other thing too, if you're thinking about this, at least it works for Panther-led. They're going to have the access to it at this time being anyway. So.
They got the lair, all the technology.
They certainly did. Now, all the way up north, we are going to see another IS-2 really kind of show himself, which makes me wonder if we're going to be seeing an edge push. Oh, wait, that was the entire ISU blob. Okay, this is... Jimster is getting a lot more mobility out of his units. Indeed, we've actually seen a lot of mobility out of both sides here, but this is kind of a pleasant thing. I feel like when you don't get given 300 units that are all super cheap, you actually have to redeploy and move your units around as opposed to just buying 3 more of them.
Yeah, it's been a lot of less back and forth, small maneuver warfare. We haven't seen a crazy commitment of forces yet. It's just been a very skirmishy A phase. Both sides are actually very timid to get into this sort of engagement. I mean, the flags are still at trove. Really throw anyone's game. No one's at a huge advantage or disadvantage because both are playing Maverick. They have the same bloody income. It's just, if it continues in this way through B phase, then C phase is going to be very bloody slow.
I would say there's potential for that, but I cannot help but wonder if the situation kind of is, you know what, we know that neither one of us has an infantry deck in A phase, and you can definitely tell from that, you made the comment about Panther-led. Third tank over here isn't that much different.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, neither side really has a whole lot of infantry, so you don't want to be eating them into the meat grinder.
Well, it's even funny when the meat grinder is a single unit of pioneers dueling with a guard squad. It's like, oh man, I cannot think of the name of this for the life of me. There was a movie that was talking about the Algerian experience during World War II.
God damn it, I know this movie. Because there's a scene where they go up the mountain.
Yes.
Yes. I've seen this movie too, but I have no idea what it's called.
I will say it is oddly gripping, if a little bit kind of like, something's lost in translation, literally. But I keep thinking about the finale, and the finale is supposed to be like this giant firefight. I think it's like 4 Algerian soldiers with one guy, with like an officer kind of lying in a bed. And it must be maybe 2 squads of Germans on the other side.
Yes, yes, yes.
I feel like that town fight in the north is exactly that here. Molotov cocktail being hurled at the Panzer III, but apparently the Panzer III is more of a sober individual and ducks out of the way before anything, unduly bizarre happens.
Mm-hmm. But really good fire position on the hill of the ISU and the IS-2 is going to be very difficult here for Tanner to deal with. If he does have the Panther now, begrudgingly bringing his Ray back up north. But even then, in a 2-on-1 fight, even though, an ISU isn't the best long-range anti-tank, it's not something you want to tangle with. And you've seen Tanner as well, he's got his light armoured force, just rest of the town. Like, he's not wanting to commit that too aggressively, unless he's dropping all the smoke now, so he can do that.
He absolutely can. Now, unfortunately, he might be losing a P3 here in a second. Yep, there he goes. This 3 on that plateau, certainly establishing dominance. Which is kind of funny, because it actually, until now, other than the 45mm pop guns, that might be the first... there's 2 Zis-3s in the map, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A bit more significant anti-tank and anti-infantry. It's a all-in-one artillery gun.
Well, the nice thing about it is that even if they fire that AP shell, technically they could still kill an infantry guy.
Yeah. You really kill one person.
True.
Yeah.
Unless they want to kind of like allow themselves to be shish kebabs. or that very Indiana Jones Last Crusade moment on the tank, like that kind of thing here too.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, right now, it looks like that one guy up on the hill, Kreichman, is just, one by one just going down here. And with a Sherman being moved in at the same time. Oh, wait a second.
Whoa, down south.
A 4-plane element, the entire Luftwaffe.
Whoa. How have you been banking so many points, Tanner? Jesus Christ. Or to kill one anti-aircraft gun.
I don't know. I had a Vietnam flashback there for a second. I started hearing Flood of the Valkyrie. Which, they killed it. That was the important thing, right?
Yeah, I wonder, is he trying to follow up here? Because he's got the Panzer III-H's, but it's still a pretty deadly blob of the Valentines and the Emcher. So unless he could actually, get a second bombing strike to blow those buggers up, he's not going to be forcing Jimster off that hill position.
Well, and that's the thing, isn't it? Is that I could have sworn he had some recon on there a little bit earlier, so he should have been able to see this.
Yes.
So, I don't know. Interesting. But there's one more 85mm still on the map, which means that despite how potentially deadly those things could be, not really much in the way of, let's say, a lasting effect.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And this is also playing into Jimster's favours now. He's got that 14-10, because he does have those 2 flags up north, which has given him that all-important point advantage. And he still has a really good defensive position on the hill. And I'm going to complain, this has been a pretty slow Maverick on Maverick match, where now we've got the Marder free spam being brought in, because why not? But Jimster, with both him being Maverick, he might as well just play defensive. There's no reason for him to get much aggressive.
Well, that's the thing, though. I think it's that he actually does... You talk about the Marder spam. I actually kind of like that. When you have the super heavy tanks up top, you want something cheap and reasonably effective that you can utilize to kind of, try to engage those, to snipe those out. Now, of course, the biggest issue about this is that the accuracy at 2 clicks is not fantastic, and you're still spending what amounts to 300 points to maybe kill one of those, because Lord knows you're not going to kill both. Just the numbers just aren't on your side for that.
Can you also bring the Panther back up north and then move all the Marder Frees and the Panther at the same time? Can use the Marder Frees as a screening force? He has a pretty good chance of actually clearing out those hills, because those Marders, even if they can't penetrate, can get some pretty decent critical hits. But never seen a central push.
Well, 2 Su-76s in the meantime, trying to find the artillery park. Unfortunately, one of the great things that's been happening about all these skirmishing kind of movements here is that Jimster has old intel, and he's not able to actually engage those mortar positions. So it's really, really well done in sighting and resighting that mobile artillery.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard for him as well to even do any major damage to the mortar half-tracks, because Well, they have armor, and the Su-76 isn't really great at dealing with anything which isn't a fleshy infantryman. It can scare them half-tracks a little bit, but that's about it.
Yeah, you say that now, and then watch as it blows up the Opel Blitz, and the Opel Blitz blows up everything else. I mean, it's not common, that's for sure, but it's not unheard of either.
And we're seeing Tanner once again. He moves his force up on the hill a little bit, but now he's backing him up. And of course, we have God Vision and all of that, but he must know that the center is, much much more lightly defended than it actually is. Because there's really nothing here from Jimster that can stop him if he was to just put his forces on the hill and try to just go down the road a bit. Even if you, do take some casualties, use some recon armored cars, that's what they're for.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, now there's an IS-2 and an ISU-152, so we have the terrible twosome over here in the center as well. And the Valkyries are back. They're trying to find every single anti-air position. Oh, no, they're... no, okay, we have a wing pair going to the south. At best, they're going to stress these guys out. I don't feel like they're going to get too many kills here.
It's just bombing the hell out of that pocket.
And I guess I can understand it. The other two just fall back without even using the ordnance, which is a very, very curious decision, but hey, I suppose so.
TNT scared him.
And down south, that Panther is not really interesting going back to the north. He comes right back down to the south again. And this Panther's been all over the place, man. He gets like frequent flyer miles, or whatever like the land equivalent of that is.
It's a good thing there's no fuel mechanic in this game. I think he'd be out of fuel at this point.
You and I were talking about another World War II game, and you're absolutely right. Even in that, I feel like I'm watching the fuel gauge, like, wait, how mobile can I be with this? Yeah, very, very fortunate. Although, I kind of feel like if that was the case, the German players would all be able to move their tanks exactly 500 meters in a straight line, and then they would run out of gas.
Yeah, if the real German army actually had the infinite fuel cheat, I think they would have done a better job.
That's true. That's true. Hitler said not one step back, but at the same time he didn't say, not side to side. Yes, by the way, folks, before we start going crazy in the comments, yes, Stalin too. But Hitler also had that same directive. Let's not get into it. Now, the other wing pair of Focke-Wulfs is coming back through. One has a very predictable happening here. And down south, where we had thought that there might have been a little more of a push, well, one Valentine's dead, but that Emtra Kamrotti apparently is just, well, let's just say he's all out of bubblegum, and he's ready to start, opening those cans of whoop-ass as a fallback diet, so...
Yeah, the guard drops actually, doing their job correctly of guarding that point, actually very impressive. Just showing how even one Sherman against, not a whole lot of proper tank support can do a whole lot of damage. It has a machine gun, it has a cannon, it has the stabilizers, it has everything. A growing Red Army needs.
Well, it has a leader trait as well, which is nothing to sneeze at and something you definitely want with your outnumbered troops. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the Emtra that just blew up courtesy of that Panther D in the center. And P. Yuri Tanner, I feel like we are seeing a kind of slow building of pressure here. This isn't quite, the little Dutch boy in the dike, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, it definitely seems that towards the end of B-phase here, and it's like, oh crap, I'm gonna run out of money soon, I need to make something happen. And, with that actual pressure, he has a pretty good push going on into the town here. There's not a big defensive structure. We do have a decent artillery park in the rear line, and now we're seeing the ISU and SU-85s being dragged down into the south. But Tanner has a good chance as well, or good time, to get his infantry to clear out the town, and it also serves the Panther D.
Yes, he does. And I'm actually kind of surprised. I didn't really notice the 4 Su-76s. There were 2 previously, now with an artillery leader as well. This... Oh, they're in for that one mortar half-track, you bullies. Yeah, that might freak him out a little bit first, but I kind of have to watch this from the other perspective of the poor 81 mil.
God, how many mortar half-tracks? This is the most mortar half-tracks we've seen in, forever, Khan. I mean, you always complain about people not taking mortar half-tracks, really just mortars in general. I understand regular mortars are technically better because they're cheaper, but still, it's funny, it's like the mortar half-track duel versus Su-76s.
Yeah, that's true. Though I will say, you do see a benefit right now of non-foot mobile mortar half-track, oh, excuse me, mortars, and that mortar half-track was like, oh yes, I just fired a few rounds, and now I move, and now I'm not going to die. Show me a foot mobile mortar that's going to be surviving this attention from these Su-76s. It doesn't happen.
No. He's just taking it like a champ.
He absolutely is. And unfortunately for the Soviets, another anti-air position is being pressured like crazy, leading now the three Amigos to come right back in after those Su-85s and ISUs. So one's going to get pulled off, but we might see a kill here?
ISU? No, but close.
And a lot of HP damage for sure.
Yeah. Now the half-tracks are pushing up into the center, but the ISU's in a pretty damn good defensive position. It's going to take him a while to kill the half-tracks, but he can kill him.
Which is why I think, like, you know what, guys? I think it's time for us to just get, that road trip we've always wanted to go on. Let's do it. Very Thelma and Louise kind of moment here. Yikes. I'm reminded right now of my Churchill. If you're going through hell, keep going. Unfortunately, that lead half-track decides that that's not really the motto he likes to live by. And the second one, well, maybe that's why you don't live by that.
Yeah, he's definitely in the highway to hell now.
He certainly is. He certainly is. Well, the IS-2 isn't TNT, but he still is kind of dynamite.
He's putting up a fight.
Yes, he is. And the half-tracks are saying, watch me explode, as now the next one just decides to run pell-mell into an Su-76. In fact, he backed up into him. Like that, yeah, that's Deutschland's funniest home videos right there.
Yeah. And still up north, Tanner has, like, a lot of stuff up here. Okay, now he's finally doing the attack. He's got two Panthers, three Panthers, Jesus Christ, two Panzer 4s, the Squadron Armadas being led by the 2-5-1/9. He's pretty much just been banking points this entire game to do this push. Will it pay off is the question now.
I don't know, but this in my mind is a 40k Imperial Guard player playing RTSs.
Got the Lehman Rushes, some of the Bane Blades.
Exactly.
He's ready to go.
Exactly. And you notice that the Martyrs over here are just like, well, I'm not going to find a 40k equivalent, but these are your run-of-the-mill dudes who just decide to find themselves being, alone in green fields with the sun on their face.
Yeah.
But weight of fire should be enough.
Yeah, 3 Panthers I think should be good enough to kill that one IS-2. I'd hope to God. Or not, round goes down.
Yeah, but there's still enough that you should get second one's down.
Wow. Russians getting some bloody lucky shots.
I didn't think that they would be able to survive this. Jeez. The Martyrs by themselves should have taken this out.
Don't have the AP at long of a range, unfortunately. So it really makes IS-2... this is the perfect example of why you take IS-2s and why they, even in 1v1s, great super heavy tank, because they can tank so much fire. I mean, look at that dude. He's probably has like enough dents in him to... I don't really know like a dent comparison, but he's probably like pretty dented out.
Yeah, he's got more dents than him than Two-Face. He's got an
there we go, thank you. That's the reference I needed.
Exactly. The reference we needed, but not the one that we wanted. But there's still that one guard squad in this town, and there's a lot of thin-skinned vehicles that are still coming on through. Yes, I'm aware that technically they have armor. Technically. Although,
it's just
with
enough.
only 17 rounds of ammunition on this, he might not be able to kill everybody in time.
Yeah.
Which is perversely funny, as I've never seen Martyrs be this effective before.
You just get so bloody many of them.
Yeah, it's a quality has a quality all its own kind of moment here, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And now we've got a pretty good advantage here for Tanner, because as the IS-2s had to back off the edge of that hill, he can now get his troops up onto the hill, onto it, and then at CQC, those mortars do have a decent chance of knocking out the IS-2. And you're also seeing up north, we've got the half-tracks rushing across the plains here. Another Panther just taking absolute shots at super long range, but he's doing fine.
He kills him too.
Finally. How many shots does it take to kill an IS-2, Khan?
I don't know. Let me pull on my mortar board and start licking my Tootsie Pop.
And now I'd say a lot of those guys are going south.
Well, I feel like it's one of those things. He's like, you know what? I have this whole Panzer Kyle kind of thing that's kind of going on here. SU-76, by the way, did take out an Opel Blitz and have forced an 81 mil stovepipe track south. But I think when you have this weight of fire, I don't hate the idea. That's not my first choice. I'd rather swing them around and really be utilizing a lot more of that mobility. But he's also martyrs on top of that hill, which can't see the combat part just yet.
This is quite interesting because he's, instead of trying to go, you know, completely east and try to push the open field, which I guess the scary part is dealing with IS-2s. At the same time, maybe if he reserves the Focke-Wulfs, the blowing out the IS-2s, Yenna's armored push could, you know, make some pretty deep penetration. But instead, he's actually hooking him round into the center and going to be making a central push. It's a bit more safer because it's a bit more close range. It just loses him some time here, which I guess allows Jimster to get defenses at the same time. Or, you know, AC going to get 80 points a minute. Not like he can get a whole lot of defenses now.
That's true, but I was going to say even more so is that it allows you to pinch off each of these salients, though, too. And it allows you to lean on that infantry, which, you know, 1-to-1, I'm not going to say is better by any stretch of the imagination, but it allows you to at least play to the strengths that your anti-tank as an infantry is way better, I'd argue, for the Germans with the Shreks as opposed to those rinky-dink PTRDs.
Yeah, at the same time, however, Jimster's got his own little armoured force moving down south, just north of the town here. Not a whole lot of support backing him up, but at the same time, there's not a whole lot of anti-tank to stop him.
Well, there's a one Pack 40, and this right here is kind of my, you know, let's say my analogy from before. Imagine, if you will, that Pack 40 was an 81mm mortar on foot. And if I may draw your attention to the fact that he's running away right now because he cannot stand up to all the firepower coming out of this battle station. I mean that artillery park in the background. So, I don't know. I know mortar half-tracks are more expensive, I get it, but the utility and the speed that they give you is just so much better.
Yeah, we are pro mortar half-track on this channel.
Absolutely. On both these channels, in fact. Yeah. You can't even adjust your set to
I know, you can't escape it.
Exactly. Another IS-2 might find himself going down here in a second. Driver knocked out. The Stellinium, sooner or later, will run dry. But he has certainly got his Rupel or two of flesh. I think there's another couple of new pyres that are burning on this plateau.
It's honestly starting to look like a Road of Tanks match, with just like blobs of tanks all maneuvering around and just trying to out-tank each other. There's no infantry. I mean, I think both sides of infantry are still available. They have that C-face card. But they're just wanting to, you know, play toy soldiers with tanks.
Fun thing I think about World War II is that we can't really have another conflict where you just kind of run troops at each other, see a martyr take on an SU-85 and getting killed in return. Like, there's some, like, perversely very, very theatrically artistic things about it. Combat car goes down, thank you, Focke-Wulfs. And the PE-2 got a little bit of shock and awe, but that was mostly a shockingly awful run. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's a different type of play. They're just usually so expensive. You have to kind of husband them back and forth and hold on to them. IS-2 takes out a Panther. We have these mutual kills going on the entire time, and that's just not something you tend to get very often.
Yeah, like, Tanner's been very, even still, not fully yeeting his forces into the front line. He moves up, he gets a couple kills. He doesn't really secure that much territory, but it's enough to keep him in the game. And Jimster, well, he only has, like, individual big blob units now. And yeah, the IS-2 up north goes down. And just, his Russian units don't have the numbers against the blob, the death blob of German medium tanks. They just kind of lose that initiative and engagements, even though the IS-152 and the IS-2 are scary at long range.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we are seeing right now that one by one the mortars have been sent off to that little eagle's nest in the sky. But they still are numerous enough. And if you look down south, even that long-held position is slowly dying. That P-Gruns are going to pinch this off. They're going to take that guard squad out of commission. And yep, I actually completely understand and I agree with this tap.
Look at the trade.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, look at this the KD over here. It feels like it should have been a lot closer than what it was, to be fair.
Yeah, I think it's more towards, if you look at chronology towards the end, yeah, there's a lot of big stuff for the Russians going down.
I hadn't realized that the last 5 minutes were like that. I got kind of distracted right about 21 minutes. But I realized all that stuff together is one IS-2. So, completely understandable. Taking a look at kills, the Su-85, ISU-152, like as you expect, the heavy tanks did the bulk of the killing over here. In fact, there's not that many times that we actually even see infantry signs on here.
Yeah, it's very much a tank battle. On Loss's side, it's pretty much the same thing. The Panther Furia was pretty furious in his engagements. That's actually from Tannet's side. It's really just that Panther D. Everything else is very, very spread out. Everyone, getting their one kill for the fatherland and going home.
That's true. That's true. I have to say, and this is just kind of a, hindsight 2020 kind of thing. I actually do think that the 81mm half-tracks might have been the thing to secure the victory. There's an awful lot of utility that they gained in the air because of them. There's a lot of ground cover they gained because of them. I don't know. I actually think those are the keys to success here.
Yeah, and also the Focke-Wulf blob. Like, there's a lot of blobbing in that match. Both sides were playing very methodical, which allowed you to just... Neither side just putting too much pressure on one another. So that big blob of Focke-Wulfs could just come in and be the hand of God and go, you see that unit, yeah? I want it deleted. And it's usually anti-aircraft units, which means you get a good spiraling effect of having complete air supremacy.
Exactly, and when they weren't able to accomplish that, you had the mortars to kind of suppress them. And when they were able to, it was... I'm not going to say it was a combined arms marvel of a match, but it's fun to see the occasional blob, because who doesn't love a blob?
Oh, yes. World of Tanks fight.
Exactly. Any final thoughts there, sir?
Nope.
Folks, in that case, until next time, I'm Con Ulrich.
I'm Rangaroo. Take it easy.